Hey, welcome to the explanation of type 2, both binary and polyatomic nomenclature. Let's go ahead and start out with binary. Now, binary, to be honest, it's the same as type 1. The only difference is we're talking about metals that don't have just one charge. So they have more than one charge, so we have to calculate what that charge is. So we look at this right here in your periodic table or in your packet. And the packet says that the rules, right, for type 2, we have a metal and a nonmetal. And it's the same as type 1. We tell the charge of the metal by using Roman numerals, okay? And we know that a Roman numeral 1, I, is a +1, II is a +2, etc. And if you don't know what that is, we'll show you exactly it is so you can write it out in your packet. This is also ionic bonding. So let's look real quickly at this example right here, and we'll go to it. We have Fe2O3. We know the charge of iron, so the iron or oxygen, so that's the charge of plus or a -2. So a -2 times 3 is a -6. We're going to divide that by our 2 that we have, so this is going to be iron 3 oxide. Now copper 2, we see that we have the same subscript for each one, so whatever the charge of the fluoride is, that is the charge of the copper. Well, fluorine, if we go back to our packet, fluorine is right here, and that's a -1. It's in 7A. And so that means that copper is also going to be A1. It'll be a +1, so it'll be a copper 1 fluoride. And if we go, and we'll show you a few of how to reverse this too. Now, when we do polyatomic ions, it's the same as type 1 polyatomic ions. So let's just get that out of the way. We're doing the same thing with the metal. That's it. So we are going to be talking about going to our polyatomic ion sheet. Okay, so hopefully this helped you out just a little bit, and we can understand a little bit more on how to do some of these. So let's go ahead and open up a document here. Let's put a couple in the document that we want to do. Okay, so let's just make this nice and large so we can see it. Okay, so let's start right off with some compounds. And let's take a compound from this part of the periodic table, because this is where the type 1 or the type 2s are. Now you can go to page 12. Now again, if I scroll down to page 12, you'll see that on page 12, you have right here, and if I make this a little bit smaller, you'll see that the type 1s are white here, over here, and all the rest of them are type 2. So all these ones right here, this one, and this one are type 2. The only difference is, see, there's no charges in here. Those are type 2. And then it's going to be with a metal. So it's going to be one of these that are in blue or one of these, and then it'll be one of these above the periodic table, above the staircase, which are non-metals. Our metals are down here. Okay, so let's go back to our packet and let's pick one from right here. So I'm going to scroll this back up to the periodic table. And let's go ahead and take nickel here, Ni, nickel. Nickel is one of them that it is. So let's just put in Ni, and let's put a non-metal. A non-metal, let's just over here, but let's put nitrogen. Okay. So if I put nitrogen, this is going to be nickel nitride, but what are the charges? So we have to really worry about the charges. So if I say that nickel, we don't know what the charge of nickel is, but I do know what the charge of nitrogen is. Nitrogen is a -3. Again, how did I get that? Well, I got that from right here. I'm in column 5A. I have 5 valence electrons. I need 3, 1, 2, 3. So when I add those 3 to get to the end there, that's where my -3, because each one of those electrons has a negative charge, so it'll be -3. So let's go back to that. That's a -3. And if I only had one of them, that would mean my overall charge at the bottom here would be a -3. That means that my nickel would have to be a +3. Okay, a +3. And that means that my nickel charge on this side up here would be +3. Okay, so then I would call this one nickel, my parentheses, Roman numeral 3. and then it would be nitrogen would change to nitride. So it would be nickel 3 nitride. So let's get rid of this one right here. And let's say that I have 2 nickels. Well, now what I would assume is that I still have a nickel as a -3. Excuse me, a -3, which means that my overall charge for nickel here would be a -6, which my overall charge over here would be a +6. They got to be equal but opposite because the charges have to cancel each other out. I divide by the number of nickels I have, which is 1. So 6 divided by 1, that means that this charge is going to be a +6. Okay. And that means that this number here changes to a Roman numeral 6, which is Vi. So it'll be nickel 6 nitride. Now, if I put a 3 right here, I would divide my 6 by 3, which means this would be a 2, and I would change this back to a Roman numeral 2. And again, that's how we do type 1s. Now, type 2, let's just change it, and let's say that this one is NO2. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that, and let's find out exactly what this is. We'll get rid of these. We'll get rid of this. We know that this is going to be nitrate or nitrite. So let's go to our polyatomic INC, find NO2. NO2 is nitrite. So we're going to go back to our paper here. And this is going to be nitrite. But we got to figure out our charge. Let's go back to our charges. Our charge for nitrite is a -1. Okay, so we'll go back to this. And I'm just, for example, I'm going to take this out of here. And so this was a -1. And so a -1 times my 1 of them that I have means that I have a -1 overall, which means my charge for this is going to be equal but opposite, which is going to be a -1. I'm going to divide it by the number of nickels I have, which is going to be a +1 back up there. And so this will just be nickel 1 nitride. Now let's say I had 3 nitrides. Okay, so now I have 3 nitrides. Now again, if you remember with the polyatomic ions, in order to have more than one, I have to have parentheses around it. So we're going to take these parentheses around it, we'll put a 3 after it, so now I have 3. My charge for nitrite is still a -1, but my total, I'm going to go -1 times 3, so my total charge over here is going to be a -3. That means my total charge for nickel is going to be a +3, which means I'm going to divide it by the number of nickels I have, which is still just 1, which changes this to a 3. And so this formula right here now would be nickel 3 nitrite. And that's basically how we do those. So hopefully you understand how to do both binary and polyatomic. Well, good luck with the rest of your practice. I'll try to have more videos on the actual practice sheets that we're working on. Hey, as always, go Mohawks. Nelson out.